Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we have an all-Pundits show going with Bryan Wachter, Marsha Berkbigler, and Paul Moradkhan. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we have an all-Pundits show going today. It's a great lineup with Paul Moradkhan. He's Senior Vice President of Government Relations for the Vegas Chamber. Bryan Wachter is here, Senior Vice President of Government and Public Affairs for the Retail Association of Nevada. And Washoe County Commissioner, at least until January, Marsha Berkbigler. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
Thanks, nice to be back.
So let's start out with Bryan. You know, at this point, as we've seen the results of the election, which have really been quite stunning in terms of the turnout on both sides, what do you think the message is, and split it up for the Democrats and Republicans, considering the presidential election was relatively so close?
Yeah, there was no doubt that I think, opening up mail ballots and really trying to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to vote was successful this year. I think what you've seen with the electorate, whether they vote Republican or Democrat, is they're looking for some solutions to the problems that people are currently facing. And that's why we keep seeing healthcare, education, public safety as these number one issues. And that really hasn't fluctuated from this election or any other election. I think we're really looking at, electorate that wants government to be able to respond. I think especially now in a pandemic, we're seeing ways the government's supposed to and the ways it's not. I think that's the way that people are voting.
Paul, do you think that what the election showed was that most people in this country still live in the middle rather than being on the extremes of the right or left?
I think so. I think that was reflective in Nevada. I think that's why you saw the strong turnout from both parties. I think that's why you saw the results you saw in some of the state legislative races, because I think Nevadans do want their policymakers to operate from the middle. And I think that was confirmed this election cycle in Nevada.
Okay, so Marsha, does this change the way that Republicans think in Nevada especially?
One would hope. There's no question that I think this election was clearly a moderate election. People are nervous of the far right or the far left. And I think this election reflected that, which is why the presidential election was up, it was down, it was so close all the time. And And I also think that it is true, too, that people are looking for clear leadership out of their government. And maybe they feel in many ways they haven't gotten it. So I hope that what you'll see in the Republican Party is looking at the broader picture of just what the American people are really after, and particularly in Nevada, what the Nevadans are after.
Bryan, do you think that this opens up the door in Nevada for Republicans to strike out and potentially not bring people into the Republican tent, but bring the independents and the nonpartisans to the Republican side, where, you know, an awful lot of the national pundits had written Nevada off as being, you know, a purple state?
You know, that Republican ideology, though, I think we saw, whether you're looking at the presidential election or you're looking at the state election, didn't lose. You know, the Senate is still, you know, we're debating in Georgia, but the Republicans held the Senate. In Nevada, Republicans picked up seats in the legislature. So that the Republican ideology is, I don't think, too much of the issue. I think we really got to look at making sure the Republicans have better candidates. Democrats have a better infrastructure. They have a better campaign strategy. They've just been better at the game. And I think Republicans need to be able to increase their experience in that realm to be able to start proving that these policy ideas and the ideology is something that is here to stay and will be around for a little longer.
Paul, when you look at energy policy, for example, one of the things that the Democrats in the post-election analysis are looking at is that a lot of voters were scared off by things like the Green New Deal and some of the more extreme liberal policies. Do you think that that's something that the legislature in 2021 in Nevada is going to take a look at and maybe pull back on some of their advances?
I think what voters are looking for is election cycle. We're really focused on jobs, economic recovery, and of course, response to the COVID-19. We know through some of the BDRs or the bill draft requests, there will be some energy policy topics for sure to be heard this session. So we anticipate there will be some hearings, there will be some bills. To how far those will go, that's still yet to be seen, but that will be up on the docket, it appears.
Okay, so your thoughts, Marsha, on that?
Well, you know, I actually think if you look at the election nationwide, you see that's exactly what the people are worried about, is that concentration of the far left I think they were worried about when the right was going so far to the right. So if you look at rural properties in northern Minnesota, in upstate Michigan, and even in Illinois, if you look at the more rural portions of America outside of the major cities, that is not farm country, but those areas outside of the major cities, what you see is people voting Republican because they feel the Republicans are more moderate right now than the far out in the green side, the left side for the Democrats. And I think that is pulling people back into the middle once again. Because again, what do people want from their government? What do they expect from their government? They expect their government to be able to address issues like the pandemic without everybody losing jobs. And yet, how do you do that? How do you make that clear to the people that the best way to resolve this particular pandemic problem is by social distancing and wearing masks? Those states like South Dakota and North Dakota, which took the choice of saying, we're not even going to require masks, we're not going to require social distancing, we're not going to shut our businesses down, now are in serious trouble with the virus. And so I think, once again, that's what people in this election cycle were saying. We don't see positive movement in the direction we need to see positive movement. Now, having said that, I'll tell you that in Washoe County, I am the only incumbent who lost their job. And is that because they were seeing that I wasn't doing social leadership or doing the leadership I need to do? No, I think what we're seeing is that I had a 6% Democrat district versus a Republican district, and I had 20% independents. And so where did they go? And so once again, it's that mix of how our country is, and how our state in particular is looking at who's going to give us the best leadership, which party is going to lead us down the road in the right direction. And I think that's what happened in this election.
Okay, so Bryan, the governor's latest edicts, shutting things down, not completely, but to 25% in some cases, retail being spared down to only 50%. But where do you think we're heading with this? As Dr. Fauci says that we're heading post-Thanksgiving and potentially post-Christmas with a worse situation as far as COVID goes.
Well, we know that the majority of the spread is happening in places that where protocols aren't being followed, where masks are likely to be taken off, which means small gatherings and private gatherings and homes. And so I think that has a lot of people a little bit worried about Thanksgiving, which is traditionally that holiday. I will commend the governor for the steps that he has taken. There seems to be more rhyme and reason to this particular directive on Directive 35, looking specifically at areas that are more effective at spreading COVID versus areas that are not as effective at spreading COVID. And I think if we continue using those science and those guidelines, that's what's going to be able to see us out of this, whether it's December, whether it's January. We're hopeful, but it really takes people buying into those mitigation strategies to really solve this problem in Nevada. And any more business restrictions are just unlikely to really help us navigate our way out of the COVID pandemic.
Paul, do you see that at this point that we're not going to see any further shutdown in the casino industry in Nevada?
Sam, I think that's a great question. I think the governor's been thoughtful in trying to balance the public health need and the economic engine of Southern Nevada. I mean, I hope we don't, but I mean, I can't foretell what's going to happen. But I think, though, what we've seen the last several months is that in Clark County, we've done a good job growing up our testing capabilities. So, I mean, the fact that we're testing as much as we are is a good sign, at least so we have a better understanding where the concentration is occurring. And to Brian's point, we have a better idea of where the transmission is occurring, but we also have to target, and we're trying to target more about the age groups that are transmitting, which is the 20 to 30-year-olds. That is a challenge, trying to get the messaging out to them about the importance of wearing the mask, following the protocols, social distancing. That is important to our situation right now in Clark County.
And I'm not particularly proud of this, but I mean, I've been saying from the very beginning of this crisis that you're not going to stop social gatherings of young people because there's a hormonal situation there. And, you know, even if you shut down every possible legal place for them to meet, they will find other places. And that's what's occurring. Let's take a break. We'll come back more with this terrific panel after this time out.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Because of UMC, I'm putting my free time to good use.
Because of UMC, she keeps me on my toes.
Because of UMC and this guy, I'm here.
UMC, the highest level of care in Nevada.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we have an all Pundits Show going here with Bryan Wachter, Marsha Berkbigler, and Paul Moradkhan. Paul, one of the topics that's come up on the program again, and part of this is Robert Lang and Dave Demore's book talking about blue metros and red states, is diversification. And, you know, Northern Nevada, through luck as much as anything, has been able to diversify dramatically over the last 20 years now. In Southern Nevada, it is so much harder because you have such a volume in terms of tourism and entertainment that, you know, I mean, I thought Ivanpah was going to be a huge thing in favor of diversification, building the airport out there and all the infrastructure that would go around it. But what do you see from that perspective in terms of diversification for Southern Nevada?
Sure. I mean, the reality is we know we have to continue our efforts to diversify, and Reno has been very successful in the last 20 years about their need to diversify. I mean, here in Clark County, I think we have opportunity to diversify and grow in the healthcare sector. The UNLV Medical School will be an important part of that. You know, we're posed well for just diversification in distribution and logistics with the movement of I-11. That's another opportunity for us. So we definitely have opportunity in Clark County to diversify, but our tourism and gaming industry has done very well over the years, and that is definitely, you know, something for all of us to further address how we need to diversify beyond that, of course, in Southern Nevada.
Yeah, and no argument there. I mean, it's been phenomenal to have 150,000 rooms in Las Vegas is wonderful. The only problem is because of what happens, whether it be a September 11th or you know, a major recession or COVID, Southern Nevada is going to take a hit because that's when people are not going to travel. Your thoughts, Bryan, on, you know, the ability to diversify in Southern Nevada, because one of the things that I've mentioned on the program many times is that it was private money that went into the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, that built the roads, that put in the infrastructure, and yet, you know, the state didn't come along until late in the game in helping out with that. In Southern Nevada, I don't see the private input of money at this point. How do you change that? What are the incentives if you're going to offer incentives?
Well, I think we may be looking at it a little bit backwards, Sam. You know, in terms of what do we want the economy to look like, and to Paul's point, I-11 is, you know, a great project, and we have been increasing distribution. But what Clark County lacks is, you know, a demographic of folks making, you know, $100,000 to, you know, $200,000 a year. We don't have this you know, blue collar or this white collar class that allows the kind of investment and the kind of infrastructure, the kind of creativity, the kind of I think the things that you get in Northern Nevada. And in Southern Nevada, we haven't really gone that direction, and that has led to a lot of different consequences, both in education, tax revenue, and building out Southern Nevada, I think, into you know, its next generation, and being less reliant on gaming. When we have nothing but folks reliant on jobs where the median income in Clark County is $54,000, I think we're going to just be in the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay, now do you see something like the Boring Company's project to build the tunnels throughout the Las Vegas Valley, well beyond just the convention center and the two properties that have signed on so far, that will spur a technological boost for Southern Nevada?
I would be hesitant to say no, Sam, but I really struggle to see exactly how, you know, just using new technology for construction in Clark County is going to lead to a technological boom. You know, I think in Apex, where they're doing some of the testing and the real world applications for some of this technology, I think that's an interesting prospect that could lead to technology. Of course, Yucca Mountain would, of course, lead to a technological boom in Southern Nevada. But, you know, we're looking at increasing or changing the types of construction jobs we have in Clark County. That's not an area that we were lacking to begin with.
You know, Marsha, what are your thoughts in terms of what have we, because one of the things about redevelopment, and we saw it from downtown Reno, I asked somebody 30 odd years ago, how long does it take to really redevelop a city? And the person said to me, 30 years. And that's how long it's taken.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to happen and you're just going to throw a switch.
Well, remember too, in Northern Nevada, we were not the gaming mecca that Southern Nevada was. We
were originally.
Well, I know, but in modern times, let's say that we have not been the gaming mecca for some years. that Southern Nevada was. And so it was incumbent upon Northern Nevada to look at what are we going to do to stabilize and not start losing ground like some of the rural areas were at times. And so that's why I think economic development became such a big issue in Northern Nevada, because we needed something more than what Vegas didn't need that, because tourism was booming, gaming was booming, everybody wants to come to Nevada to play, and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's really how Northern Nevada got started on doing their economic development. And what's really been interesting to me, sitting on the commission through this whole year with the pandemic, is that our business growth is not stopping. Our biggest problem right now is we need housing, because people in California and some other major states are saying, let's go to Nevada where the pandemic hasn't been as bad, and it's bad right now, but there are reasons for that. But the pandemic hasn't been as bad here in Northern Nevada, and we've space to grow. You can, there are incentives being given to put your high-tech business or whatever here in Northern Nevada. And so businesses continue to look at us here in Northern Nevada as a place to come and a place to really develop. And so I think that's the major difference you see between Reno and Las Vegas, is we needed something. We had to have something. And so we stepped out to do it. Las Vegas has not needed that. And maybe in today's world, I'd like to think that the pandemic is going to go away in January. I don't believe that. I think we have probably some ups and downs, some serious ups and downs. I agree with Dr. Fauci that I think probably March is a more logical time for the high peaks that we're going to be at to really start sliding down low, for a lot of reasons. Not just the fact that it's winter and it's cold and people are more indoors and they're closer together because they want to stay warm, but I just think that's the way the flu works. And although COVID is shall we say, a highly evolved flu, regardless of your political position, you'd have to at least say that on it. And so, but additionally, we also have the flu of 2020, which is out there. And so I think we're going to see that for a while. And maybe that will be an incentive for big tourism areas like Las Vegas to really step back, and their leadership to step back. And I don't mean their political leadership. I mean their business leadership, because really that's where the changes come from.
Okay, let's take another break, and we'll be back with this terrific panel after this timeout.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we got a great all-pundit show going here with Marsha Berkbigler, Paul Moradkhan, and Bryan Wachter. Paul, one of the things that has been concerning is with the dramatic drop in room rates, we've seen a spurt of violence on the Strip and even in downtown. How much of a concern is there, and how fast are the police responding to this?
Sure. I mean, public safety is always a top priority in the Strip corridor and downtown. The sheriff is confident in their response. So I think, the Sheriff Lombardo does a great job, and I think they're committing the resources they need to do to address those public safety concerns. So I'm confident the sheriff and his response and how we need to handle those situations that have occurred.
And is part of it the branding that, it's better to sometimes have less business but maintain the brand rather than dropping the price to just let everybody in?
Well, I think there's a balance, of course, to all that. And I think that's where, obviously the LVCBA plays a role, the sheriff, Clark County, the city of Las Vegas, and those stakeholders are definitely having those conversations and reaching out to folks about what is the best PR plan to move forward.
Bryan, a quick one on your turf here is, how did Black Friday look as far as retail?
We're expecting in Nevada retail brick and mortar sales to be down anywhere between 3 to 8%. We do expect non-store sales to be up. We don't know if it's enough to offset it, but we do know more people shopped online this year than ever before. And so we are anxiously awaiting to see how Black Friday performs in Nevada. But of course, today being Cyber Monday, we just expect those non-store numbers to continue increasing.
Okay, and Marsha, it's great to have you back on the program, and we're out of time.
Thank you, Sam.
And it's your
great
fault.
to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you back.
Sorry.
Come back soon. Guys, thank you very much. It was a great show, and we'll be right back. Bryan Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Bryan, and at Bryan Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Bryan has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at bryanculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's Development Company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's Development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
As always, you can watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at NevadaNewsmakers.com. We'll see you on the next show.